So right now you have property. You're a landlord,
Yes.
and
Well, I'm not. I
properties-
am a landlord, but I don't manage my properties anymore.
Of course,
I have someone who takes care of all
I'm
that.
sure. I'm sure. All in London or all over the place?
All of the UK.
Incredible.
Some in London, some Manchester, some going up north to going towards Scotland.
Amazing.
And
So you don't
Midlands.
even have to know the neighborhood, right? So you just do a calculated risk. You do your research,
It's really simple.
and you can have. Please.
Simple. It's really simple. You give me a house now. I punch in a postcode. I have this piece of software that tells me. See, this is how you. When you talk about work smart. Like instead of going out there and checking it out yourself. And of course, I've made a few mistakes doing this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's been times where I bought something that cost me money, but actually most of the investments I made in, especially in the real estate space, is cash flowing and it's making money. In the early days, you know, I was in really difficult situations because of that. So that's why I had to find smarter ways of doing it. So if you're buying a property, first thing you want to know is, okay, how many, like you say a property is worth what it's worth. Okay, really, is it? Okay, let's see how many have actually sold in the last 6 months. And you take the comparables, then you look at what's on the market. What's on the market for compared to what has sold? And what percentage is it? 10, 20, 30% over? Okay, good. Are there any developments happening in the area? Is there a Starbucks? Is there a McDonald's?
You can do all this from your couch.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
How do you find these softwares? Because I attended your course,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote 3 pages of websites that could help make my life easier.
I've not even talked about your AI stuff yet.
Amazing. So where'd you get time? Do you have researchers looking for things?
Do you know, people ask me, why do you still teach? Why do you still fly around the world? Why do you speak at all these conferences?
Mm-hmm.
Because I get to stay up to date with the latest technology, with the latest things that are happening, latest trends. Do you know I did a talk on AI, the first time ever? And all those people in the audience were AI experts, and they came up to the organizer and said, who's that John Lee guy? Half the stuff he's talking about only came out a week ago. How does this guy know this
So
stuff?
how did you know?
Contacts.
Wow. So when you do on the platform all over the world, you took it to all the experts.
I've got contacts. I can make a few phone calls. I hang around with the right people. These people teach me this. And of course, my managing directors looked at my presentation and says, John, this is really not that great. Change it. And so, credit to her. She forced me to up level. That's what she does. She pushes me, like forcing me to up level.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found all these incredible softwares. I had a friend with me at the time who was saying, you should look at this person, this person, this person. That's why you got to get mentoring and coaching. If you don't grow, how are you going to be a bigger version of you?
And interesting, all these successful people are willing to help for free.
At the top level, yes. Because at the top level, people understand relationship capital. Like, let's say you come to me and say, hey, John, this tokenization thing, it sounds interesting. Okay, let's sit down. Let's look at all the revenue coming in. Okay, let's imagine half of that is in not fiat, but it's in a different type of currency. And let's say instead of making 100 million, you're now making $1 billion. You're probably going to come to me and say, hey, John, I'll give you a bit of that. Right? Or for that, I'll take a little bit of allocation. Or like a lot of these, a lot of the times when I'm looking for unicorns, that's actually the wrong thing to look for a unicorn, because you won't find them. You have to hunt for a unicorn. So looking is trying to look. Oh, where is one?
Passive. It's passive.
It's very passive, but it's like, what, they're just going to show up like that? No, you got to hunt for one. Let me give you an example. I sit down with a 15-year-old kid who's done robotics, and he's talking about this, and this, and he said he only needs this much money to do this. I then go to my VC friend and say, hey, what do you think of this? Do you think, oh, wow, that's amazing. That sounds interesting. Okay, good. All right. And then we look to the engineers and look at tokenization experts. And then we look at, how to build the blockchains. Like, this is how you hunt one out. You see, you want to get in on pre-seed rounds. When you write that first check for 100 grand or 50 grand, like smaller checks. But on the next rounds, you make more money, and then it gets higher valuation. And that's how the game works. But it takes time. That's why I fly around the world as well, to spot the talents.
Wow. And do you have like a principle? I invest in one company every month. At the moment, that's my limit.
Yeah.
And ticket size about $150,000. Is that good?
It depends on what stage.
I can comfortably, and it's all seed.
Okay, pre-seeds?
Pre-seeds.
Okay.
Yeah. At bottom is initial investor come in.
Yeah.
Some within 12 months to 4 times.
Okay. So do you see the decks before they do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I meet the owners, the directors. I look at exit strategies. I look at if they're going to IPO, they're going to sell that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's okay, but
there's
actually better ways.
Yeah, tell me.
There's actually better ways. You could split that into 3 checks of 50 and put them to ones that
I'm writing everything down. Yeah.
You can split them into 3 checks of 50.
Yes.
Or you can do it under 5 checks of 25. Yeah.
Same
about 5
company or
times.
different companies?
Different. Yeah.
So there are companies out there with 25,000.
Because you need to hedge. Right.
But
So if
there
that's
are
the
companies
limit,
out there who'll take 2020 and they could be unicorns.
you never know.
Wow.
Like imagine, so a friend of mine got into Solana at 7 cents, and it's like it went to its peak 200. It's dropped down a lot since then, but and then again, at the time of recording this podcast, it might be different. It might be at 0, but that's why you need to look for some of those. If you look at okay, I'm talking about tokenomics. I'm talking about utility. I'm talking about that whole Web3 space, right? You look at how many of them go to the moon. They have these kind of like pops, and then they kind of die down. They have pops and come down. The goal is to catch them before they get to that.
Yes.
Right?
And then you spread your bets, right? So, and then if that one pops, you're in.
Yeah.
Maybe 30% will lose, maybe 40% will lose, but that 50, 60% that go up, you're in the money.
Yeah. And because you've got more chance of it going up. If you invest in one, like, okay, so I'll give you an example. If you invest in one, say put 100, 150 in one month, you've got 12 companies.
Yes.
But if you can do 5 or 10 companies a month,
60 another month. Yeah, exactly.
It's you got way more chance. Plus, you diversified as well. And you might do a bit of Web 2, Web 3, Web 2.5, traditional businesses.
I think it's a case of wanting to win big, but then if you're 20,000 pops from cents to dollars, you're in the money anyway.
Think about it this way. Let's say most companies, they tokenize, right? So let's say you issue 1 billion tokens at 1 cent.
Yes.
Right? So if you do the calculation, get calculated, you do, let's say 1,000, let's say you want to put 20,000 in it. 20,000 divided by 0.1 cent, it's going to give you, a lot of tokens or points. Yes. Let's say you're able to lift that to $1. It goes up 100 times. So you have all that times 100 now. That's why when you look at what happened in the pandemic, there were so many crypto millionaires.
Yes.
Right? Bitcoin billionaires.
They all came here.
Whales.
They all came to Dubai.
Right. They all started buying Lambos and Rolexes and Richard Mille. Like you saw all that game.
Yes.
Obviously, right now we're in crypto winter at the time of, talking about this, but I can guarantee you as time goes on, here's my prediction. In that world, they call people like you and I normies. We are normies, basically newbies. It's a nice way to say it.
Yes.
Right? But because it's already gone through a cycle already, right? It went through the first cycle, and then in 2020 to 2021, another cycle, and then what's happened, of course, with all the things happen with banks.
Yes.
Right? It's now coming into the third wave, and the third wave, now the market is ready. So if anyone listening to this right now, I don't mean to post this, right? But the time
in about 3 weeks.
Right. So the time of people watching this year is the year. In my opinion. So to get ready for this transition.
I have Bitcoins.
Okay.
Is it going to go to $250,000, do you think?
It's not the Bitcoins you want to look for. You want to look, because you want to look for the Solanas. You want to look for the Ethereums.
How do you find them?
Contacts. I'll give you an example. So.
But then I have quite a lot of listeners that don't know where to get the contacts from.
They have to be in the environment. For example, when I speak
to the seminar.
I'll give you an example. When I speak to engineers, they tell me the things they're working on. So do you know when Facebook had a coin, right? They had their own coin.
Yes.
They tried to get it online. They wouldn't let them because Facebook would pretty much monopolize the entire market.
Yes.
So what happened? They took the engineers out and they created another coin underneath that, right? So my friend happens to know these people, right? And you get the context and the context. I can't say on here because people are going to go buy it, right? and by the way, no financial advice.
Okay, there we go. Okay, I've written it down. I'm going to do some Google searching. Yes.
Disclaimers. Okay, you and I can have an offline conversations.
Sure. I promise you, I'll delete this.
Yeah, but no, you don't have to delete. You got millions of people watching this. Yes. Just do your due diligence. Get in with the right people. Ask me, John, how do you get access to invest in these companies? It's because I get allocation because of my contacts. Yeah. You see, you asked me before about the top people who was charged for the services. Relationship capital at the highest level.
It's priceless.
You just can't put a fee in it. Like someone's going to pay me $100,000 to do a keynote. I'd rather do that keynote for free, but I get everyone's data.
And they don't ask for anything back. They're just giving. In that realm, everybody's giving.
You've got to add value at some level. Like I met with someone today who's an incredible operator. Right? I could be better at operating, but he's like with Fortune 500, like the best of the best. But he comes to me and he asks me about, okay, John, how do I grow a brand? How do I market it? How do I sell? How do I get on these big stages? I've been doing it for 20 years. So that's what we call a barter deal.
Okay.
Right?
But it's not said if that's the way it's done.
It's etiquette.
Exactly.
Etiquette.
And then when you find out it's not reciprocated, you move on.
Yeah, I mean, not really. Well, it depends because these people might go away and come back to you a year later. Go, do you know that thing that you told me to do?
Yes.
I did this and this has happened. But also, you also have to charge at some level at the start. It depends on who you're talking to and where you're at. If you've never met the people before, then, for example, we'll have to charge for people to learn some things because if we're going to teach something and they don't show up, let's say I'm going to run a demo day, right? I bring the top 10 VCs into a room. And that person doesn't pay, or at least pay for the flight to come. I've got these VCs in the room that can raise millions.
Correct. Where's their commitment?
Exactly. So that's why when people pay, they pay attention.
Exactly.
They have to show up. Otherwise, they don't show up. You look stupid. VCs aren't going to show up again.
I calculated, last year, every month, I gave away 18 hours of my time for free.
Mm-hmm.
And after those 18 hours, I can honestly tell you less than 3% appreciate it. It's crazy.
When people pay, they pay attention.
Exactly. So getting hold of you to come here wasn't easy. Okay. I had to speak to Diana all the time, pusher. Do you know who I am? So one of the challenges is that a lot of people like me who don't know anyone, okay, how do you approach people like you? Because I was just lucky to meet her. And how do you get somebody's top players to give them attention? Because they just don't have the skills or the confidence. What's the approach? I get approached. I'm no one like you, but I just get like, hello, how are you?
That's
like,
terrible.
What the hell is
terrible.
that? How are you? Let's have a conversation about how the day's gone.
Let me give you the secret.
Yes,
The
please.
honest secret is you got to care. Dan and I talk about this you got to care about people. So when someone contacts me, they go, hey, John, I see you're in Silicon Valley. I see you're in Dubai. I see you in Hong Kong. I see you in Malaysia. I see you in London. I see you're working on this project. By the way, I know this person. I want to introduce this person. I've CC'd them in this email. This is what I've said. I've said you're incredible at this, and this is how you can add value. And by the way, I've got a lot more people like this. If you would love to reach out, let me know. I'll see how I can support. So they've already
made effort.
They've paid you first, not just in money, but in effort, in intention. They've paid in intention.
Yes.
Right. So
do you get to read all your messages, or
all
your
of them.
team get it and then they pass it to you?
Yeah, people. I've got a very simple email, john@johnlee.com. It's so funny because when I go to networking events, they'll say they'll give me the card and say, "Oh, have you got a card?" I said, "I don't have a card." "Oh, how people want to contact you?" I said, "My name, John Lee."
John Lee. Yeah.
John@johnlee.com. They go, "Oh," and they send it on the spot. So it's like you got to make it easy for people to contact you, and very easy way, either a social media or a DM, and an event. That's another thing as well, because you caught me in an event, right?
I didn't catch you. So you ignored me. It was Dino who actually helped me. You just walked straight by. I was like, yeah. Actually, if it wasn't for your beautiful managing director, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, but it's so
I just
crazy.
Thought, okay, then I just
like
focus
that.
on her. She's giving me some attention.
She's a boss. She makes
I
the
love
decisions.
you. I'm just joking. But you were busy. You were busy. And the thing is, I have an ego, right? So I don't want to say, John, please. I don't want to do that. And I know there's lots of people out there who don't feel they're good enough. You with me? They don't feel good enough, or they've earned the right to get some successful or wealthy person to give them the attention.
It's all about, you got to take the chance.
Go for it.
Right?
Courage.
It's so funny because, when I'm at events, like people are like, can you do this? Can we put this together? And I say, okay, send me a deck. That's the first test.
And they don't bother.
That's the first.
Yes.
I kid you not, I was at a big event. The guy pictures me. First time I've ever seen this. It brings up
a building or something.
Yeah, like a maquette. A building is carrying it like this. And thought, wow, that's good. I gave him 5 minutes to send me the deck. But he actually handed me over a deck. See, this guy's smart.
Yeah, he was expecting.
He was expecting that. I said, well, I've done it better. Here's the deck. So
did he go further?
Well, actually, we still.
I know it was only a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I get thousands of decks.
One thing I noticed, it was a Mind Valley event, and you spoke on stage, and coincidentally, I came back. You were out. You were probably the only speaker who stood outside without any bodyguards or anything, and you were just giving time for everyone. Is it a competitive world out there for speakers? Is there lots of egos out there?
It's too much ego. And don't get me wrong, like you have to have a little bit of an ego to do that job in the first place.
Because you're seen as an expert, right?
Right. But you've also got to be humble at the same time. You've got to be willing to learn. Like I'm going through this next chapter of this whole web. This is literally like you go from 0 to millions, you need good businesses. Going from millions to billions, you need to understand technology.
Yes.
Right? That's the transition. So to move to the next level, it's a massive learning curve. Like I might, I'm going to actually learn to code as well. Right. So
Really?
learning, not because I want to code, because I need to understand
it.
what, I mean, people say, well, John, just use ChatGPT to do that or just draw it out. Yeah, but how do you know what to prompt it? It's not when people say, oh, John, I can learn that social media marketing on YouTube. Yeah, but how did you know how to search for that in the first place? So you have to be aware.
So where'd you get the time? When you're flying on a plane or something?
Flying, honestly, I tell you, most of it comes from speaking to friends in my circle.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll say, does anyone know anyone in this space? Can you make a connection? Bang, there it is. Wow. That's why I love this place. You're always meeting people and going to trade events. And that's why becoming a speaker is good, because you get backstage with all the other speakers and you start talking about things. What are you working on? And then they introduce you to, let's do dinner tonight. They bring all their friends as well. And it's very organic. It's very organic.
Amazing.
And that's how.
Is there a certain way to behave at that level?
Yes.
Uh-huh. How is that? Because you can walk into that level and just like they realize you're out of your depth, right? So
but that's why you have to be humble. Mm-hmm. If you don't know something, say you don't know it. Mm-hmm. Right? If you because a lot of people talk.
Yes.
Right? But not many people do action.
Exactly.
So now when people tell me things and say, okay, you can do that. Okay, great. Let's see what action they can do from that. Mm-hmm. Let's see what they do.
Yes.
Right. And sometimes when people picture me, I was like, okay, well, tell you what, when you get to this, then let me know. For example, when people do podcasts, I said, how many podcasts have you done? Just starting out. So I'm going to be your first podcast. Sometimes, if I've got time, I'll do it. And I want to help that person out. But sometimes, all right, okay, when you've done your first 10 episodes.
Then got some traffic. They've got some commitment. It's going to be long.
It's not even the traffic, because even at 10 episodes, they don't have that much traffic.
But they're showing commitment.
Right? But they're showing commitment that they're willing to do it.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. I'm hunting for the unicorns.
Yes.
I want to see the attitudes. It's not even skill set even. It's like, are they willing to put the time in? Are they willing to be humble? Right?
True.
Are they willing to grow?
And also what I find, they don't have the machine gun effect. They just don't copy paste and send it to every Tom, Dick and Harry. They actually do some research. They find out what you're interested in.
Yeah. Mm. Like, for example, like my daughter loves unicorns.
Yes.
Right? So
she's 4, right?
Well, she's getting on to 5 now. Oh. But like some people say, oh, John, I do this. You want a unicorn? My daughter do this for you. Or like, I'm reading my daughter books as well when she goes to bed. And one of my participants, like she's a children's book writer. So she gave a children's book. I'll always remember that. Like, and then I thought, what a kind gesture, because then I know that person's thought it through before they come say, hey, how you doing?
Yes.
You see what I mean? So that's how you should really do it. Spend some time, put in the investment up front. It's not just a time investment.
Make some effort.
Correct.
Yes. And then you stand out in a crowded marketplace.
Yeah.
Amazing.